Howdy everybody, I'm Tom Vasel and welcome to Board Game Breakfast. We're glad you're with us today as we enter another month, August. The Gen Con Online was last week, and so we're going to hear about lots more games as we gear up for the second half of the year. 2020 is a very different year than we expected it to be, of course, but we're still having a good time here at the Dice Tower, and we hope that you join us each week as we talk about games and the people who play them. This particular episode of Board Game Breakfast is sponsored by Pandasaurus Games, especially talking about Control. If you missed it, last week we played a live game of Control, a three-dimensional game where you're building blocks around the outside of a cube, trying to control or have the most points by having your stuff on the outside of that cube. We're giving out 3 copies of that in today's episode. This is for folks who are in North America, but if you want to enter that contest, just email us at contest@dicetower.com. In the subject line, put the word blocks. Blocks, put that in the subject line and your address in the description, and we'll announce 3 winners for that by next week. So hopefully you win. I wish good luck to all of you. We reviewed a lot of games last week. There's a lot of things to talk about, and just keep that in mind. Each week, when we do our Board Game Breakfast on Mondays, we also do a companion video called Week in Review, which talks about all the videos we did last week. So if you want to, there's a lot of videos we put out. If you're just looking for maybe specific ones or ones with high-rated games or low-rated games, whatever you're looking for, that's a good video to watch because it kind of points you to something that you might enjoy. Also, I did a live werewolf game last week, which I thought was a lot of fun, and hopefully some of you will watch that and enjoy that. Alrighty, well, let's keep going. Let's start. Well, I'm going to continue my series that I'll do occasionally on Board Game Breakfast, talking about games from 30 years ago. And now I'm going to talk about one of the most popular games that came out 30 years ago, and that is Halli Galli. Now, this game is designed by someone from Israel and is a speed-style game. Now, when I lived in Korea for a decade, and everyone there loved Halli Galli. Halli Galli is one of the most popular games in Korea. If you've never played it, you are flipping over fruits on the piles, looking for matching fruit or fruit that equal a number 5, or it's different depending on what version you have. When you see that combo, you hit the bell as fast as you can, and then you win cards. And this is a game that I have never won, that I've never come close to winning. Now, to be fair, I often played it with teenagers, and you flip a card over and you hit the bell, and that bell got hit so hard it might fly to the ceiling. There's a silliness in Halli Galli, and a lot of people like it because it just comes with that bell. And it's about collecting fruit, although there are theme versions of it and everywhere. And kids like it, but it is a speed game. You're sitting there as cards get flipped over, and numbers are changing, and that change and that. Oh, ring the bell. And I would get to the point where my brain would start registering that I should hit the bell, and the bell had already rung. I was still like getting ready. My brain's like, lift up your arm. The bell had already rung. And that was 10 plus years ago when I was younger and faster than I am now. So this is definitely not a game for me. I rank it a 5 out of 10, but it is one that's very popular and a lot of people like it, and it is sold considerably all over the world. So 30 years old. Congratulations to Halli Galli. Still in print in many places. Let's keep moving.
Hi, it's Tarrant.
And Stella from Meeple University. Today we have Way of the Panda, the game that's been sitting on a shelf and finally got played.
Yeah, it was, I must say, it's a very big case of don't judge a book or game by its cover, because...
What's wrong with the cover?
The cover is fine, but, it's pandas and little minis, and I expected it to be a lighter game than it was. It actually sort of... to me, felt a little bit Hansa Teutonic in the way it was sort of a root control.
I haven't played that one yet. Yeah. So, what made you think so?
It was just a lot of the game was about finding a route and slowly taking control of it with a little bit of engine build behind it. And it also had a very, quite a challenging action selection mechanic.
Oh, that's very unique as well.
There was something like 25 actions available in a big grid. You had to spend action points on them, you had to spend pandas on them, and you could only go forward, you couldn't go back.
Yeah.
But if you went right ahead to the one at the very end...
Yeah, which is more powerful than the beginning. But that's it, you can't do anything else.
Not only that, but then you get fewer action points for the next round. So
Correct.
it actually, it's really
challenging
that way.
It's a lot of dimensions to it as well.
Yeah.
And I like the cute minis, the little one. We haven't painted ours. Should get Matthew from the plastic canvas to paint ours. So that is the Way of the Panda. And we are Meeple University on YouTube and also on the Dice Tower for How to Play and Pocket Playthrough series. See you next time. Hi everybody.
Hello, we are Ryan and Bethany.
From Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
Alright, well today we're talking about bites. This is from BoardGameTables.com, and it's all about these ants who are at a picnic and they're eating all these different kinds of food.
Okay, speaking of bites, I went for a walk with my daughter the other day. I came home, I was in terrible mood, and Ryan was like, you should go outside for a walk because I know that, and he knows that really helps my mood. So we went outside for a walk, we jumped in all the puddles where there's rain, there's mosquitoes, and we got eaten alive.
Bites.
Her poor face was just covered in mosquito bites. But it worked. Even with the mosquito bites, when we came home, my mood was drastically different. I just need to be outside every day because if I'm not, it really affects my mental health. And so if you're like me at all and you have to be extremely proactive about your mental health, I would try to get outside every day, even with the mosquito bites.
Alright, so in Bites, you're going through this lineup of this huge lineup of all different kinds of food. The ants are traveling along that path, picking up the food along the way. Every game you play with a different, different scoring parameters and different special powers that some of the ants have and stuff like that. So this game is infinitely replayable. There's tons of different new modules. It's really fun.
Alright, so the components are super cute, and then it like deceives you because you think it's just going to be a cutesy game, but my goodness, it is not. It is very strategic and cute. So it has these fun pieces while also being strategic. Win-win.
We played this with our 7-year-old, and she actually declared it, as at least of this moment, her favorite game. That could change next week, who knows? But
I praise.
for her, she's the choice connoisseur of gaming. So, she loves
Bites. Weird. There's like wine pieces in here.
I call them like grape juice, like white grape juice.
Yeah, sure. Okay. If you guys want to hear more from us, you can always find us on Facebook and YouTube. We are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. Everybody, this is Ryan and Bethany. Hoping you have a happy, healthy breakfast. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Today I want to talk about a movie called The Vast of Night. I was turned on to this by a Facebook post somewhere, and so I figured, hey, I'll go give it a whirl and watch it because someone compared it to a Twilight Zone episode. I'm not a fan of horror, but I like Twilight Zone horror of some sort. So this spookiness, I think, is something I enjoy, and this, what's going to happen, the spookiness mixed with technology, whatever it might be, Twilight Zone is where I'm at. And this was recommended to me as a larger Twilight Zone episode. Now that I've seen it, that's definitely the case. And in fact, if there's one thing, I felt like maybe it was slightly longer than it could have been. But the movie is set in the 50s in New Mexico, and it basically centers around two main characters, a disc jockey, a night disc jockey, and a night switchboard operator. And it starts at a basketball game in a small town, and then these two main characters go to their job, and then something happens in regards to aliens, maybe, not sure. Where there is so much, this movie is so small, there is almost no action sequences in the movie at all, but there are some, but not many, and there is a ton of dialogue, but the two main characters are phenomenally good, play off each other really well, and the dialogue sounds both 1950-ish and authentic to that time frame. I really liked how this movie is shot. The sound effects are really good, and there's just some really interesting shots in general. In fact, in the middle of the movie, there's one shot which is both slightly dreadful And it's just amazingly done. And I can't really spoil without you watching it. It's just you'll know when you see it. Like, it's a really cool camera shot that they do. And as you go through, it's like I said, it's your typical Twilight Zone stuff, and there's a background. And when it was done, I wasn't like, well, I've never heard that story before. I felt the story was maybe mundane is the wrong word, but I'd seen something like this before. It just was so well put together. Jumping from black and white to color, playing on the terror of the unknown is a big chunk of this. And, with that kind of ending that Twilight Zone episodes have. So if you haven't seen this, it's on Amazon Prime, and I highly recommend it. It's if you like action movies with all kinds of swish bang, this might not be your jam, but I thought it was a lot of fun.
Hey everyone, Kim Breeze from Tabletop Rebellion, and we are back with another segment of Name the Game, where I show you a bit from a board game, and you try to guess which game it's from. Last time we left you with this clue. Were you able to name the game? If you guessed the Alpha from Bicycle Games, you are right. Add a few more marshmallows to those Lucky Charms this morning. The Alpha is one of Bicycle's first steps into light strategy games. Players control a pack of wolves hunting various prey. Now, within the near forest, they'll find smaller prey, like rabbits, fish, even sheep from a nearby farm. They're easier to catch, but won't provide enough food for the whole pack. So they have to go into the deep forest, where it's home to larger prey like elk, caribou, and even moose. Now, we enjoy the majority control mechanism to placing your wolves in this game. When you have the most on a location, you roll the die and collect that amount of food. Now, this moves you up the main track on the board. If you tie with another player for the number of wolves on a location, then you face off. Players will secretly decide to share or fight, and then they'll reveal at the same time. Maybe your pack will share the food, maybe no one will get anything. The wolf pack with the most food at the end of 5 rounds is declared the winner. And that's the Alpha. We hope you and your family give this one a try. It plays 3 to 6 players. Each game lasts about 45 minutes, and the rules are pretty easy to understand. So that does it for this week. To catch all of our reviews and playthroughs, you can find us over on YouTube or social media as Tabletop Rebellion. We'd love to see you there. And here's your clue for next time. Do you know what game this is from? Have an awesome breakfast.
Hi, I'm Josh from the YouTube channel Josh Yaks, here to take a look at another thematic game mechanism. This one comes from the game Devs, but that's clearly a V. Okay, fine, it comes from Deus, as in Rock Me Amadeus, and along with the base game, I have what is arguably the best expansion in all of board gaming, Deus Egypt. We're going to see how this game's card activation mechanism simulates a growing and expanding civilization. Players begin the game with literally nothing on the map. Then, by the end of turn 1, their first building has planted the roots of their soon-to-be burgeoning civilization. When that first building comes into play, its ability will get activated. For instance, this intensive production building would give me a new bark, and if I've built it in a wheat field, it would fill up my bark with wheat. But on a future turn, the addition of a new building will trigger the abilities of all previously built buildings of the same type. So if I were to build this seasonal production building, I would pay its cost, and then, starting at the bottom of the building cards and working my way up, I would activate each of my production buildings. First, the intensive production building fills a bark with wheat. Then, my barn produces a resource from each region with a production building and at least one other building. My mill allows me to gain 3 resources from a production building since it is on the 3rd level of the card stack. And then finally, my new seasonal production building allows each of my production buildings to give me a resource. It's a simple and clever way to simulate the benefits of a growing and expanding civilization. Deus is a deceptively straightforward civ game that can paradoxically be tough and unforgiving. It can be quite a challenge to get a good economic engine up and running, just like in real life. And that's why it's so satisfying when you can really start chaining those card activations together. I'll catch you next time with another interestingly thematic game mechanism, and until then, I would love it if you would pay me a visit on my Josh Yaks YouTube channel. Cheers!
So what's coming from the Dice Tower this week? We're going to be reviewing several games. The biggest one this week is a 4-way review between all of us about Pandemic Legacy Season 0. So we hope you enjoy that. As we take a look at that, we played through the whole campaign. I did an overview for it already. This will tell you everything else we think about it. I'll be taking a look at Undaunted, Barbarians the Invasion, Shalalia, and Aqua Mirabilis. Coming this week, as well as the expansion for smartphone. So keep an eye out for that. A bunch of little games we'll be taking a look at. Me and Eric will be posting a podcast on Tuesday. We have a lot of different podcasts in the Dice Tower Network, and there's some really fantastic stuff. If you want to learn more about podcasting, games in general, there are so many different voices out there, and I recommend that you try to listen to different voices. I try to put different voices on the video channel, but there's many cool different voices on our audio channel. So I hope that you check that out at DicetowerNetwork.com. One last thing this week for a top 10 list of sorts. People have been asking me to do this for a while, but now that I played Pandemic Legacy Season 0, I'm going to be ranking all the Legacy games. I have 15. I'm going to be going through each one and ranking them from 15 to number 1. My personal opinion, of course, but if you're wondering what Legacy game you should get, hopefully that will help out as that comes out this week. All right, let's keep going.
Hi, I'm Ambie, and I like art, but today I'm going to talk about board games where art isn't necessary. Now, it's no secret that I like Kirby. And I also like crafting things. So a while ago, I made a Kirby chess set. But the problem is, I don't play chess. So I haven't actually used the chess set at all. When I made it, my friend who does play chess tried playing on it, but the pieces were so confusing to him that he couldn't play it. So even though it looks really cool and it's nice to display, it's not actually great for playing the game. So I just use it as a display piece and it's gathering dust. I think there's a similar thing with a basic deck of cards. I grew up playing a lot of standard card games, so I'm used to the standard art on card deck, which isn't much art. I've bought some other fancy decks of cards, like a Disney Princess one, but usually they're harder to tell what each card is at a glance, and harder to shuffle, because sometimes they're not even rectangular card shapes. So, like my chess set, these special decks are just there for decoration, and they're really good at gathering dust, I guess. I think it's amazing that modern games have managed to combine good art with gameplay ability, but sometimes I forget that most people don't actually expect that from board games. When I talk about board games with an average person, the first thing they think of is Monopoly, and that still sells a lot of games, and the art for Monopoly hasn't changed in a long time. At least, I think it hasn't changed. I haven't actually looked at Monopoly on the store in a long time, so I just assume it hasn't changed. But anyways, even though having good art is really cool in a game, it's not always necessary. So let me know what games you like that don't have much art. Bye!
This is a segment where we take a look at an IP-driven game, and I tell you whether the IP fits the mechanisms and whether it's a good game or not. Today we're going to be looking at Marvel Avengers Hero Rush. This is a small children's board game based on the Marvel Avengers universe, but not the MCU. The characters are chosen because of the MCU, but are really based off the comic series. I'll take a look at the game, and I'll come back and I'll tell you whether it fit the IP or not. Pull the deck up. The first player to get 3 of these Avenger tokens will win the game. You flip over a card, and you take one of these people, you flip them over, and you put them on either Loki or Red Skull in this case. And 2 people can be in the same location. This says Hero Right. I randomly drew that. That would allow me to score an Avenger token, and then it would move to the person on my right. Then they would just keep going. You don't reset any of the timers. I have to flip anybody I want over to Loki. Once again, if anybody runs low on these, then your turn will end and things will move on. Believe it or not, this game actually does fit the IP fairly well. You have Black Panther, Iron Man, and the Hulk, and you're going around and you're fighting the bad guys, Loki, Thanos, etc. It's kind of weird that Red Skull is on there, but not Captain America as a hero to play, but there you are. And it's funny that all the characters are chosen from the MCU. I'm pretty confident on this, but it's the comic book versions of them. But they did choose the ones from all of the Avenger movies, so there is some familiarity with that. The game is going to play for, like, younger kids, and the miniatures are going to be like these clunky plastic toys even, and my 2-year-old loves playing with just the toy itself. The game is fairly simple. You're just kind of moving around, a lot of luck involved, and throwing around the cards to see what comes up to get the points, and all of that is fine. But the thematic tie-in of taking your Avengers and fighting the bad guys Why you get Avenger tokens every once in a while doesn't really make any sense, and that kind of pulls it out. But this is for the littlest of little gamers, and it works in that respect. And it's actually one that I'm going to keep around for my children to play, even though the game itself is so simplistic. But the little gamers need something too. And if they're into Marvel Avengers, this is one to get.
So I have a new idea, and I've talked to Jason, my friend, about this. So many of you know Jason Levine. He calls himself the Gaming Machine on our podcast, and he's very, very good at games. He is much better than I am, much smarter when it comes to games, and whoops me much of the time. But he also takes longer to play than I do, considerably longer to play than I do. And so I came up with this idea, and I was curious what you all thought of this. I said it half joking, but I thought maybe it's something I might put into practice. Where I said to Jason, if I took the amount of time he spent on the game and divided it by his final score, took the amount of time I did on my game and divided it by my final score, I might beat him much of the time. Because he'll sit there and think about every possible move. He's not the worst analysis paralysis player I played against. I played against people who are way worse than he is. But he definitely sits there and thinks about things. And then often he will, on my turn, say, wait a minute, I actually meant to do this. And so if I took all that time, I feel like I would win. So if he beats me 120 to 80, but I took 30 minutes on my turn and he took an hour on his turn, then I've won. Now you can say, Tom, well, you can certainly game that system, right? Just make the move super fast, and who cares if you lose? Sure, and I get that. But if you're playing normally, is this something that's possible, or is this just me having sour grapes? I've always done silly things like that. I played a game against someone one time where they stabbed me in the beginning, made me lose 8 points. So I put 2 score markers on the board and moved them both. And with the one where the 8 points I would have had they not stolen it, and I said, we'll see at the end of the game if that matters. That's just silliness. And so is this idea that I'm bringing across. But at the same time, I think there is something to be said for it. Like, well, the same thing could be said, for example, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I've had like 5 people at a game, and there was only room for 4 people, and 2 people said, you know what, we'll play together. That's often a couple doing that, right? They'll play together. Well, should I divide your points in half? Because you now have 2 people who are working on the board. These are silly things. Please don't take this one seriously. I think we do a lot of serious Tom thinks as time goes by, and I want to do something a little bit more lighthearted. But it is an idea, and I think the next time I play against Jason, I'm going to keep a timer there and just do it and then divide our scores at the end and see where it is. You know what? He might still whoop me. He might beat me by that many points. We played Tapestry the other day, and he almost doubled my score. But I wondered, did he almost double my time? It's an interesting idea. Just thought I would talk about it. Let's keep moving.
Hey guys, welcome back. Today I want to share with you another educational game, and today's game is the game Spot It. Spot It is a really short card game that's really fun to play with kids, and my husband and I enjoy playing it too. This version is really great for preschoolers. It helps them identify their colors, their shapes, and their numbers. To play Spot It, each player begins with 1 card. You will flip the cards over, and then you'll turn over the top card from the draw pile. Then each player will try to match one of the items on their card with the card that was turned over, and whoever can do it first gets to keep that card and puts it on top, and that becomes their new top card. And then gameplay continues until the entire draw pile is gone. And then at the end of the game, the player who has collected the most cards is the winner. We have 4 different versions of Spot It. I think this version is especially great for preschoolers. My daughter, she's 5 now, but she really has enjoyed playing this game when she was like 3 and 4, and even now she still enjoys playing it. So this is a great one to play with preschoolers. If you're going to be preschooling at home this year, then definitely check out this game. If you'd like to see more homeschool related content, be sure to check out my channel called Cultivate, and I'll be back next time with another educational game. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of Board Game Breakfast. Bye.
Randy, Dylan, we game together.
Can we play now?
Yes.
Hi guys, I am Randy.
And I'm Ellen, and we're We Game Together.
We are.
And we're back.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a hiatus, lot going on, but we are back now with a brand new series about the first games that we've ever purchased in our hobby career.
Oh, okay. So the first one that you bought, because I still didn't really know anything about games,
I was trying to get into the hobby.
Yeah.
I had watched some Dice Tower videos, and the first game
was Pandemic,
which we bought on December 17th, 2014.
Yes. I feel like, is Pandemic a pretty typical first game purchase? Like
I would
first hobby
say
game
so,
purchase?
because at that time it was in stores, I think, for the most part, even like Walmart and Target, I think, was kind of around that time. But that was a game that I know that Ellen was super competitive, so I'm like, you know what, I'm going to try a co-op to begin with. Turns out later that we find out that Ellen does not like co-ops pretty much whatsoever.
That is my absolute least.
So it was a
favorite
pretty dry spell between Pandemic and our second game. But real quick, what are your thoughts on Pandemic?
It's fine. I get why it's a first game purchase. I get why it's gateway. I get why
I think it's pretty gateway.
I feel like it is. I get it. I don't like it. Sorry, Z.
Yeah, it was not a great first experience. I enjoyed the game for sure. Ellen did not as much. It's a game that, like I said, Ellen doesn't really like co-ops.
Yeah.
And this is about as co-op as you get.
And it's
because it's really kind of set the benchmark for many other co-ops.
I don't remember having a definite alpha gamer moment, but I already didn't know what to do. Okay, and I'm like trying to figure this out. I didn't have a gaming head on my shoulders, and then people are like, "You should do." It was overwhelming, and
so I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember back, but I'm pretty sure that bought into a pretty dry spell because the next game we bought was Life Junior on December 31st of 2014. We're not going to really talk about this one. It's just a game I'm like, you know what, I'll get my kids into it, because I know Ellen's not terribly into it, so maybe I can get some gaming with the kids.
Wasn't digging it.
Life Junior is not a particularly great game, but our kids did enjoy it. They like the little cars and things like that.
Who doesn't?
It's not a terrible game, but it's not a great game by any chance.
I will play with Life.
From there, I went straight to Agricola on 5/17 of 2015. But that game, I actually returned shortly after.
Returned.
Because I'm like, I got Agricola, and then I just heard about Caverna very shortly after. I'm like, oh crap, this is supposed to be like the better Agricola.
You said, oh crap, I remember.
Plenty of opinions on that, but Caverna will be coming up on a future episode.
Yes, you will.
But thank you guys for joining us, and we'll hope that you like this journey that we go upon on our games that we first purchased into the hobby.
And as I say, if you don't like it, we're doing it anyway.
Yep.
And that's it for another Board Game Breakfast. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks to Pandas Arts. Check out Control. Check out their contest. We got other things coming up this week. We're going to have a good time. We're going to start a new live play as time goes by. I'm going to announce that a little bit in the future. We're also gearing up to cover some Essen games and things. But there is plenty coming from the Dice Tower. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks so much for sticking along with our channels. One last thing, though, before we go. We've been doing daily chats at night at 9 p.m. I have enjoyed doing those tremendously. I started those when the quarantine went into effect. I said, I'm going to do this every night until the quarantine's over. I thought the quarantine would last like a month. And then after a couple weeks, I said, you know what? I'll bring in the other folks. They'll help me do this so I don't have to be on every night. And we've done that. At this point, we don't want to continue that indefinitely, so this is the end. This coming Sunday will be the final daily chat, at least for a while. We might bring them back, and we'll try to do other videos in their place. But we're going to take a break from that because we don't want them to get mundane. We never want the Dice Tower to be something where we're just doing stuff to go through with it. So if you've been missing out on those live things, this is the week. Come join us at 9 p.m. each night as we do our final daily chats. Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production.